If you are over 50 and you take vitamin D3 every day, there is a very good chance you are taking it in a way that prevents it from working the way the research says it should. Because over the past decade, the science on vitamin D3 has moved far beyond what most physicians are telling their patients. And the largest clinical trial ever conducted on vitamin D supplementation, a 26,000-person study called the VITAL trial, produced findings that should have completely changed this conversation. It did not. The guidance stayed the same. And so, one of the most critical micronutrients for adults over 50 is still being taken incorrectly by the vast majority of people who take it, including many who have been diligent about it for years. In this video, we're going through 7 things most adults over 50 have never been told about vitamin D3. By the end, you will understand not just what it does, but whether what you are currently doing is actually giving you access to those benefits. Leave a comment below with your name and where you are watching from. Are you currently taking vitamin D3? And has your doctor ever tested your blood levels? We read every single one. Now, let's get into it. Number 7, most people still think vitamin D3 is a bone supplement. It is not primarily. That framing took hold decades ago when the first major health campaigns connected vitamin D to calcium absorption and calcium to bone health. The logic was accurate, but dramatically incomplete. Vitamin D3 is not a vitamin in the traditional sense. Once it enters your bloodstream, it is converted by your liver and kidneys into a steroid hormone, a hormone that regulates gene expression across nearly every tissue in your body, including your immune system, your brain, your cardiovascular system, and your muscles. Your body has vitamin D receptors distributed throughout its tissues, not in a few locations, in virtually every cell type that has been studied. That receptor distribution tells you something important. An organism does not build receptors in the brain, the heart, and the immune system for a nutrient that only affects bones. What this means in practice: the conversation about vitamin D3 needs to start from a different premise. You are not supplementing to prevent a deficiency disease. You are providing a hormone your body uses to regulate systems that directly determine how you age. How you take it and whether your body can use it determines whether any of that is actually happening. Number 6. The largest vitamin D trial ever conducted found something that changed the entire scientific conversation. Most people have never heard about it. In 2019, the results of the VITAL study were published in the New England Journal of Medicine. VITAL was a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial involving over 25,000 adult participants, followed for more than 5 years. It was, by design, the most rigorous test of vitamin D3 supplementation ever undertaken. The researchers were not primarily studying bones. They were studying cancer, cardiovascular disease, and autoimmune conditions. And what they found was striking. Participants supplementing with 2,000 IU of vitamin D3 daily showed a 17% reduction in cancer mortality, a 22% reduction in the incidence of autoimmune disease, and meaningful reductions in cardiovascular risk in certain populations. A 17% reduction in cancer mortality in a 25,000-person clinical trial. That finding did not generate a public health announcement. It did not change the standard supplementation guidance. Most physicians are still recommending 600 IU, based on guidelines written before this data existed. What this means in practice: vitamin D3 is not a bone supplement with some secondary benefits. It is one of the most clinically significant compounds available to adults over 50 without a prescription, but only if you are taking a dose that actually reaches therapeutic levels in your blood. Which brings us to the mistake the majority of people are making right now. Number 5. Most adults over 50 are not taking nearly enough. The current recommended dietary allowance for vitamin D3 is 600 to 800 IU for adults. This figure has been in place for decades. It is still the number printed on most supplement labels. And it was established primarily to prevent rickets and severe bone disorders in average adults. not to support immune function, not to reduce cancer risk, and not to account for the biological changes that come with aging. Here is what changes after 50. Your skin's ability to synthesize vitamin D from sunlight drops by approximately 70%. Your kidneys become less efficient at converting stored vitamin D into its active hormonal form, and your gut becomes less effective at absorbing it from both food and supplements. 3 independent mechanisms working simultaneously against your ability to maintain adequate levels. The VITAL trial produced its results using 2,000 IU daily. Many researchers in this field now suggest that adults over 50 with confirmed deficiency need 3,000 to 5,000 IU to reach the blood levels where the immune and cellular benefits become measurable. What this means in practice: if you are taking 600 or 1,000 IU, because that is what the label recommends, you may be supplementing without correcting the underlying deficit. The only way to know with certainty is to measure it, which is what almost no one does. Number 4, you cannot manage what you do not measure. Your blood level of vitamin D is measured as 25-hydroxy vitamin D, written as 25-OH-D on a lab report. Most medical guidelines define deficiency as below 20 nanograms per milliliter, insufficiency as below 30. Here is where the research places the optimal range. A meta-analysis published in the British Medical Journal found that the health outcomes most strongly associated with vitamin D3 benefits occurred at blood levels between 40 and 60 nanograms per milliliter. Some researchers in longevity medicine now place the target higher, at 50 to 80 nanograms per milliliter. The average adult in the United States has a blood level of approximately 30 nanograms per milliliter, technically sufficient by most guidelines, meaningfully below the range associated with the immune, anti-inflammatory, and neurological benefits found in the research. And critically, you cannot tell from how you feel. Unlike iron deficiency, which produces fatigue, or severe dehydration, which produces thirst, vitamin D insufficiency has no reliable early symptoms. It operates silently for years before the downstream consequences become visible. What this means in practice: ask your physician to include 25-OH-D in your next routine blood panel. It is a standard test. The result tells you not just whether you are deficient, but exactly how far from optimal you are and what dose correction is actually needed. Supplementing without testing is guesswork. Testing turns it into a strategy. Number 3, when and how you take vitamin D3 determines whether your body can actually use it. Vitamin D3 is a fat-soluble compound. Unlike water-soluble vitamins such as B12 or vitamin C, it does not dissolve in water. It requires dietary fat to be absorbed from your digestive system into your bloodstream. The majority of people take their supplements first thing in the morning with a glass of water, often before eating. That habit was built around water-soluble vitamins, where it makes no difference. For vitamin D3, it significantly reduces what your body can absorb. A study published in the Journal of Bone and Mineral Research found that taking vitamin D3 with a fat-containing meal increased absorption by approximately 50% compared to taking it on an empty stomach. The type of fat did not appear to matter significantly. What mattered was that fat was present at the time of absorption. What this means in practice: take your vitamin D3 with your largest meal of the day, typically lunch or dinner, the meal most likely to contain meaningful amounts of dietary fat. If you prefer to take it at breakfast, ensure that meal includes eggs, full-fat yogurt, nuts, or avocado. The supplement cannot produce benefits your body cannot absorb. Number 2, taking vitamin D3 without K2 may be creating a problem it was designed to solve. And this is the connection almost no one discusses. Here is the mechanism. Vitamin D3 significantly increases your body's ability to absorb calcium from food and supplements. More calcium in the bloodstream is generally useful. But calcium in the bloodstream needs to be directed to the right destination, bones and teeth, not arteries. Vitamin K2 activates a protein called matrix GLA protein that functions as calcium's traffic controller. It directs calcium into bone tissue and simultaneously suppresses the mechanism that allows calcium to deposit in the walls of your arteries. The Rotterdam Heart Study, which followed over 4,800 adults, found that high vitamin K2 intake was associated with a 57% reduction in cardiovascular mortality and significantly less arterial calcification. A separate study published in the journal Atherosclerosis found that K2 supplementation actively reduced existing arterial calcium deposits over a 3-year period. When you take vitamin D3 without K2, you are increasing calcium absorption without ensuring it reaches the right destination. The two compounds work as a biological system. One increases absorption, the other ensures proper distribution. What this means in practice: if you are currently taking vitamin D3 alone, consider a combined supplement formulated with K2. The most studied and bioavailable form is MK7. Look for it on the label. This is not an optional addition. It is the mechanism that makes the combination both effective and safe long-term. Number 1. The connection between vitamin D3 and cognitive decline is the finding that changes everything else on this list. Here's what most physicians are not yet discussing routinely with their patients. Your brain has vitamin D receptors distributed throughout its tissue, not in a few isolated regions. In the hippocampus, the prefrontal cortex, and the cerebellum, the areas most directly associated with memory, decision-making, and physical coordination. An organ does not distribute receptors across its most critical regions for a compound that is merely incidental to its function. A large cohort study published in the journal Neurology followed over 1,600 adults for 6 years. Adults with severe vitamin D deficiency were more than twice as likely to develop Alzheimer's disease compared to those with adequate levels. A separate study published in JAMA Internal Medicine found that every 10 nanograms per milliliter decrease in blood vitamin D was associated with a 23% increase in dementia risk. This finding has been replicated across multiple independent research groups in different populations using different methodologies. It is not a fringe finding. It is an accumulating body of evidence pointing in the same direction. The mechanism connects directly to what we covered at the start. Your brain runs on cellular energy. Vitamin D3 supports mitochondrial function, reduces neuroinflammation, and regulates the expression of genes involved in brain cell survival. When blood levels are chronically below optimal, those systems operate at reduced capacity. For years, sometimes decades, before the consequences become visible. What this means in practice: vitamin D3 is not a supplement you take to avoid a deficiency number on a lab report. It is a fundamental input to the biological systems that determine how your brain ages. Every day your blood level sits below optimal is a day those systems are operating without the support the research says they need. Your body after 50 does not stop responding to what you give it. The evidence on vitamin D3 is not emerging science. It is decades of accumulated research pointing to the same conclusion from multiple directions. Most adults over 50 are deficient. Most are supplementing at doses too low to reach optimal levels. Most are taking it in a way that limits absorption. And most have never been told about the K2 connection that makes the combination safe and effective long-term. The intervention is straightforward. Test your blood level. Correct the dose to reach 40 to 60 nanograms per milliliter, not just above the deficiency threshold. Take it with a fat-containing meal. Pair it with K2 in MK7 form, and understand that this is not optional supplementation for adults over 50. The research treats it as foundational. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If this changed the way you think about vitamin D3, subscribe so you never miss what we put out next. And leave a comment below telling us whether your doctor has ever tested your vitamin D levels. and what the result was. We will see you in the next one.